All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m., so we'll go ahead and get started with our committee of the whole meeting today. It's good to see all of you virtually. I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving, quiet and safe and healthy. So we'll get started. We have 2 items before us today, and then we have a presentation, an update on the Parks Millage. And then, Commissioners, we have Economic Development Project Team at 12:30 today. And then at the end of COW, I'm going to call the question for 2 executive sessions. This will be our reviews with our city clerk and city treasurer. That will be today at 1:30 and 2:30. So we'll go ahead and get started today, first day of December, last month of this crazy 2020. I'm sure all of us are looking forward to 2021. So the first item before us today is a resolution approving a small distiller, small winemaker, and small brewery license for Kombucha on Tap, LLC. And this is going to be located at 1059 Wealthy Street. Can I get a motion? So moved. All right, moved and supported. City Clerk, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, there's not much to say on it. Basically, they're just adding that small distiller, small winemaker, just to add on to what they had. So it's gone through all the vetting, so it's all set to go.
Great. All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I just want to add that it is some of the best kombucha this side of the Mississippi River. It is just really, really good kombucha. So, FYI, colleagues.
I second that.
All right, and I think Commissioner O'Connor is a kombucha drinker. So we'll see what you think as well. All right, with that, I'll turn to our city clerk to call the vote.
Commissioner Jones. Commissioner O'Connor.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody. Commissioner Isasi.
Yes.
Commissioner Repart.
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier.
Aye.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, Commissioners, next that will take us to a resolution removing 470 Market Avenue Southwest from the Grand Rapids Smart Zone Local Development Finance Authority's Certified Technology Park boundary. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. And is Mr. Gracia going to tell us about this?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Morning. Morning, Mayor, Commissioners. So attached is a resolution that would remove 470 Market Avenue Southwest from the Grand Rapids Smart Zone Local Development Finance Authority Certified Technology Park. This property was initially added in the park in 2016. You heard about this project a couple times before already in its brownfield plan amendment. And this development group out of Chicago is proposing to convert the property into 167 market unit apartments at an estimated cost of $32 million. Again, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority has supported this with approximately $4.1 million in tax increment financing over the next 25 years to support the redevelopment. The Smart Zone LDFA has reviewed the information and consented to the removal, and a public hearing to consider the removal was held before this commission on October 27th. The staff recommends approval of the attached resolution. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gracia. I'll open up for questions, and then Commissioner Jones, he's our representative on the Smart Zone Authority. I'm wondering if you wanted to add anything.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Gracia? All right, City Clerk, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody. Commissioner Isasi.
Yes.
Commissioner Repart.
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, Commissioners, that will quickly take us to our update today. So all of us are well aware of the history of the 2013 Parks Millage. And we have an update every year on those dollars, how they're spent. And so we'll turn it over for this update and informational briefing to our Parks Director, David Marquardt.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners, City Manager, David Marquardt, Director of Grand Rapids Parks and Recreation. Slides should be getting pulled up here in a minute. All right, excellent. Great, thank you, Mr. Kane. So just as a reminder, this is our annual update on the 2013 voter-approved parks millage. And just to ensure that we're not getting any sound interference, I'll just ask that everyone mute their microphones. This is the annual update that we provide every year. And just as a reminder, this millage was voted and approved for two purposes. The first of which is capital improvements to our park system, and the second is to ensure that our pools remained open and operational. We are in the 6th year of a 7-year millage, so we've got 1 year remaining of investments, but we're excited to share this update with you as we head into that final year. So if I could get the next slide, please. So just a brief overcap of the projects that we've done to date and over the course of the last year. Approximately 48 projects have been completed since the start of this millage in fiscal year 2014. We've got 15 projects that are currently under construction or will be under construction soon, starting this next spring, leaving 19 currently that are in a community input and or design phase right now. That leaves 2 remaining projects, one of which is Anabawan Park, and we're working very closely with the river restoration team to ensure that we get the timing right of that improvement project, so that improvements are coordinated with the river restoration work and the disruption that is expected with that river implementation work. The second remaining project is Sullivan Field out on the west side of Grand Rapids, a historic ball field. And we are building a rather robust project in partnership with a number of private and nonprofit philanthropic organizations. So of those 15 projects that are under renovation this last year and into this next year, that has equated to roughly a $4.5 million investment of park millage funds. With those funds, we've engaged, even during this pandemic, well over 1,200 individuals as a part of the design processes for each of those park renovations, and that's pretty remarkable. It's a testament to the voters and the residents' passion for these improvements and the need that exists within the system. If I could get the next slide, please. So I'll turn your attention to the photos at the bottom of this slide, just for some examples of some of the recently completed projects, the first of which on the far left side of the slide is Plaster Creek Family Park. This was a really important project from a couple of different aspects, the first of which is Grand Rapids Public Schools was a very close partner in this project. This park space sits directly behind Burton Elementary, and we share park space along with their school yard space as well. And so this was a combined effort in partnership with the Wege Foundation as well. They were significant financial contributors to this project. And this is one of Grand Rapids' very first fully nature-based play spaces. So what that means is that we recycle the number of trees and limbs and logs and stumps from the city's forestry division within the Parks and Recreation Department to create this brand new play space and facility that was designed really by fifth and sixth grade students of Burton Elementary. And their families' participation in this project work was instrumental as well. Then in the middle of the slide, Lexington Park. This is on the near west side of Grand Rapids. This too was an old schoolyard, a portion of which was converted to park space and designated as such formally with the city of Grand Rapids. This park space brings a new family gathering space and shelter facility, grills and seating areas, and some really remarkable new and creative lounge seating as well that meets a little bit of the taste of the college crowd, the younger crowd that we're serving on this side of town as well. And then McKay J.C. Park on the far right-hand side of this slide is a good example of the way in which we are continuing to elevate universal play spaces in our park system across the city of Grand Rapids. This park redevelopment included new play elements that meet those strict standards. And we're pleased to be delivering yet another space within our park system that meets all of those standards. Moving forward in 2020 and into 2021, a couple of projects worth highlighting. Burton Woods is down by Garfield Park an incredible natural area that is loved and endeared by the neighbors and residents of that neighborhood. Camelot Park on the southeast side of Grand Rapids was a unique project in that it utilized some community development block grant funds to deliver a new splash pad desired by the residents of this area. Then Ken O'Shea Park, you'll hear a little bit more in detail about later in this presentation. The same with Roberto Clemente Park on the southwest side of the city. And then Sigley Park is another of those school park sites within the city of Grand Rapids in a partnership with the Grand Rapids public school system in redeveloping this space in more of a natural way, in partnership also with the Wege Foundation in delivering nature-based play spaces. Next slide, please. Since 2014, it's been a commitment of the departments to ensure that we're leveraging outside funding as well to match these millage dollars. Without the dedicated funding to the Parks and Recreation Department, we would not have been able to leverage this amount of significant funding. And since 2014, there's been about a total of a little over $17 million of outside funding that has been leveraged, which is rather significant. Nearly $3 million of which will be leveraged over the course of this current year and this next fiscal year as well. A couple of areas worth highlighting in partnership, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources is a large contributor to these leveraged funds. Every year, the department submits a number of MDNR grant application requests to the state of Michigan for support of many of our projects. And so they're a great partner in our work. In addition to that, our sister agency, the Environmental Services Department, has been a great contributor and a great partner in our work. They have been helping us not only deliver and build new park spaces, but also integrate some really important green infrastructure aspects to our park spaces while helping to control stormwater quality across the city of Grand Rapids. The National Recreation and Park Association is another partner. The Downtown Development Authority is a great partner. And then I've mentioned community development block grant funds and the Wege Foundation and other significant philanthropic partners as well. And I just want to call attention to the resident fundraising line for Koval Dog Park. It's a small amount, it's $700, but it is significant. And it, again, is a testament to the passion that the residents of Grand Rapids have for their park spaces. And it's just incredibly meaningful to see those types of contributions and those partnerships to help make these projects come alive. Next slide, please. So a couple of project highlights. Roberto Clemente Park. This is a park space that is currently under construction and set to be completed next season. This is roughly a $950,000 millage investment on the southwest side of Grand Rapids. This project is being matched by a Michigan Department of Natural Resources grant award to the Department of Parks and Recreation for $242,000. And again, the city's Environmental Services Department is contributing $300,000 to help advance green infrastructure components to this park space. So we continue the nature-based play space theme in this park as well, with a new outdoor discovery and play area. We've got a fabulous new shelter design and restroom facility. This will be one of Grand Rapids' first all-gender restroom facilities within the park system. And so we're really pleased to be delivering this new amenity as well to this park space. We've got new accessible pathways, universally accessible pathways that connect this important park space, not only to the neighborhood directly up the hill and behind this park, but also the Grand Rapids Public School that is directly behind this park space as well. And that will be a new lighted path for safety purposes. Also included an outdoor classroom, rain gardens, bioswales, and native plantings that will be a part of those green infrastructure components. Next slide, please. Eastern Park is another one of those really great examples of a partnership with the Grand Rapids Public Schools. So this is an old school facility recently transferred to Inner City Christian Federation, developers of new affordable housing within this neighborhood. Back in 2018, with a partnership with the Friends of Grand Rapids Parks and the Amway Corporation, we were able to deliver to this neighborhood park space a brand new playground, an incredible opportunity that really saved the department a significant amount of funds that would have otherwise had to gone toward replacement of play structures and play facilities. But since that time, now we've been able to work with the neighborhood and with those involved with the development of the new affordable housing project to really reestablish the heart of this neighborhood through this new park space that will include new accessible pathways into and around the park, new bench seating, drinking fountains, and other provisions that make this a true destination again within the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Kenosha Park I had mentioned earlier as well. This park too is currently under construction and set to be completed next season. This was roughly a $400,000 millage investment, leveraged by a $150,000 grant from the National Recreation and Park Association. Again, this is a nature-based play space designed by the youth and the families that live and use this park space, and is also, again, another direct connection to a Grand Rapids Public School facility, the Kenosha Elementary. So we are working to not only daylight stormwater and build in these nature-based play spaces and add new signage, but the significance of this project too has a little bit to do with the fact that this is a destination and a trailhead for the Plaster Creek Trail system, which is a direct connection to downtown and a direct connection from this neighborhood to the Grand River Corridor. And so this project incorporates some new bridge connections to that trail system and some signage as well that clearly demarcates and marks this area as such. Next slide, please. And then if you'll recall back in the spring of the year, when COVID was landing upon us rather quickly with a number of regulations, the decision was made by city leadership and all of you to keep our pools closed this season. And while that was disappointing, there was a commitment made back at that time as well during that decision making that those funds would be directly put back into capital investments within the park system, which is what we did, and which meets the guidelines and the intent of the 2013 millage. And so those funds were spent on a number of projects, the first of which is funding that was used as a grant match. So the department received another grant award from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to fund and build and deliver a new splash pad facility at Garfield Park. Funds were used for roof repair and roof work at all of the pool houses, Martin Luther King Park Pool, Briggs Pool, and Richmond Park Pool as well. Over at Richmond, we also made some improvements to the entry and gated entryways that participants use when they come to the pool house. So it's a better experience and a brighter experience as well. And then we did some pool fencing replacement and access improvement projects down at Martin Luther King Park Pool as well. This last project shown on the slide, Rosa Park Circle Rink Ice Rink Compressors. I recognize that is not a pool project, but it is a capital improvement project that would not have otherwise been able to be accomplished. And so a portion of these funds went to replace the 20-year-old compressors at Rosa Park's ice rink to ensure that we can keep the skating rink open and up and running for the use of all residents of Grand Rapids. Next slide, please. So just a summary, to date, the revenue that has been collected by the city for the dedicated parks millage since 2014 is roughly $25 million. The total investment that has been made to date is about $23 million. Now there's a difference there, and I want to call that out in that as you know, through the presentation here, a number of projects are still under construction. A number of those projects have project contingencies. So when we run into unexpected conditions, we can ensure that we're able to pay for those things. And so that's a little bit of that difference that you're seeing in those numbers. But overall, all sources, both millage investment and outside leverage funding, we've invested at roughly $35 million to date. Over the course of this 7-year millage, so 1 year remaining. So if you recall, in 2013, those millage investment guidelines had some very specific parameters. Those can be found in the box in the lower right-hand corner of the slide here. 45 to 55% of funding is to be put toward rehabilitation and repair type projects. And you can see that in the orange section of the slide there, we're coming in at about 48.2% right now. 25 to 35% are to be spent on park improvement projects or new amenities. And you'll see in the green portion of that pie chart that we're coming in at about 27.1%. So right in the middle of where we should be. And then finally, that third category was pool operations, spending 15 to 20% of total millage funds on pool operations, and we're coming in at about 18.8% on that segment. Next slide, please. So just looking ahead, 2021, we've got a number of projects that, as mentioned, will be under construction or nearing completion of construction or are in a design phase as well. And so those can be found at the top of this slide here. Supplementing that work, we have the intention to apply for a number of Michigan Department of Natural Resource grant applications again, as we do every year. We anticipate submitting applications, 3 or 4 applications for support of the Leonard to Ann Trail construction. This is the last remaining segment of trail running through the Grand Rapids downtown core for complete connectivity through the city of Grand Rapids and up to the White Pine Trail that runs all the way through the northern parts of Michigan. We intend to submit a grant application to support the playground reconstruction out at Richmond Park. This is an important rehabilitation project, and we've got some great partners on the west side, including the Mitten Foundation, that have come alongside the department to support this effort. And then we intend to submit 2 applications for parkland acquisition. We've talked to you before about parkland acquisitions, and I know that the city manager is working with all of you to schedule an executive session to get into the specifics, but I am pleased to share today that the plan that we've got in place and the plan that has been reviewed and recommended by the Parks Advisory Board is set to deliver 38 acres to both the Third Ward and neighborhoods of focus, specifically 26 acres in the Third Ward and roughly 8.5 acres in neighborhoods of focus. And again, we're excited to get into the specifics of where those properties are and the excitement and enthusiasm that we've got for each of those on an individual basis. And then moving forward, of course, voters approved a new millage 1 year ago, November of 2019. And so the city will begin collecting revenue on that millage starting next year in 2021. The department will begin to recognize some of that revenue probably sometime between the timeframe of July and September of next year. But if you'll recall, that millage was voted on, again, with some specifics, but less categorically. But funding will be spent again on capital improvements. We will continue to make investments that improve our park system to the level that residents expect. And pool operations will continue to be a part of that as well. So pools will continue to remain open and functional and a lively space for our residents and youth to use. But there are new 2 categories to this millage moving forward as well. Park operations will be supported to some degree, as will recreational components. And so on the park operation note, I think it's worthy of taking just a glance back in time. This was a challenging year for the department over the spring of the year. COVID had a number of impacts on us, but yet we had essential services that we needed to continue to develop. This was also a time at which a number of things were unfolding in the city. Shutdowns were happening across the state of Michigan. And one of the impacts that really challenged our work this year was pulling in some full-time employees that might have otherwise been laid off due to the shutdowns. We were at the exact point in time where we would have traditionally hired a number of seasonal staff that historically work with us on an annual basis. But we made the decision collectively with leaders across the entire organization to ensure that these full-time employees had employment. And so we pulled those employees into our work. And we are so incredibly grateful for the support that they provided us up through mid-June of last year. The challenge that we ran into, however, is that at that time of year when those FTEs then transferred back to their home bases or their home departments, those seasonal employees that we would have otherwise hired found other employment or we're collecting unemployment and with a added federal benefit that really challenged us in bringing them onto our role. So we were considerably behind on staffing and not able to staff up to the levels that we would have normally had at that time of year. But looking forward to next spring, it's going to be very different. We are already gearing up with a significant plan for adjustments and implementing the new park millage that has a portion of it going toward park operations. And so to supplement that, we've got a well over 400-page standard operating procedure document that our staff are pouring through currently in its final state, and measuring up with a task tracking system as well to ensure that we're taking those standards that we set out there for ourselves and the residents and ensuring that they're being implemented in a meaningful way on an ongoing basis. Just another note on the COVID impact as well. Winter operations are going to look a little bit different for us this year. We have made a commitment to keep all of our parking lot gates open this season. Our parks are always open every year, all seasons, but sometimes that perception of a closed gate seems to signify a different message. And so we're keeping all of our gates open, and we're going to be working hard to communicate and message where we will be plowing after a snowfall or where we will not be able to plow, but deliberate effort to ensure that residents have a space to be outside and a space to recreate and participate in a healthy lifestyle. So that is the presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to share this update. I will defer to the city manager if he's got any closing remarks before we open it up for any other comments or questions.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to thank Director Marquardt and his staff for a very responsive presentation, both to the stewardship of the millage dollars, but also the lessons that we've learned during COVID. We, like many other employers, are challenged with all of the staffing issues and operational issues, and I think the Parks Department has done a good job of adjusting as well as planning for next year. So I appreciate the work that they've done, and also want to ensure that we understand the importance of open space, green space, and park outdoor recreation during COVID, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that the public has accessible parks. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. And I want to add a couple things. One is I want to make sure all of us really take this opportunity also to thank everyone who helped make the Parks Millage a reality. So there were a number of organizations and people who stepped up even before the 2013 millage that helped move forward the millage. So I want to give a huge shout out to all of our partners in the community. We wouldn't have these resources now if it wasn't for them, including our friends at Friends of Grand Rapids Parks and the campaign Neighbors for Parks, Pools, and Playgrounds. DGRI has really been instrumental with the downtown parks. Grand Rapids Public Schools have been key partners for all of us, but I really want to thank the voters for voting yes, both in 2013 and 2019. And the work we've been able to accomplish really has been done in partnership with so many people who care about our green spaces and parks and pools and playgrounds and making sure that they're accessible for everyone. So with that, I want to just say a couple things, and then a couple additional things, and I'll turn to all of you for any questions and comments. So I'm glad to see that we're keeping our gates down this winter. I know all of us have been encouraging folks to embrace winter and get outside. I had a conversation yesterday with Dr. London, and we know that being outside is a safer space, especially as we continue to live through this pandemic. So getting people outside and encouraging them to use those spaces all winter long and keeping them activated is going to be really key. And then also I just want to say thanks to all of our staff at the Parks Department who through a really difficult year have really stepped up and helped make sure that those spaces were available, including the bathrooms were available for folks as the parks were heavily used, and hopefully that will continue in the summers and the years ahead. So commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner O'Connor?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Marquardt, for the presentation. Some really exciting projects that have been done recently, and obviously some really great stuff happening in the future. I just kind of following up on the mayor's comments about being outside, being a safer space for people. I've gotten a lot of constituents reach out about the current conditions at Hartside Park, and just kind of wondering what role the Parks Department is playing in helping. Obviously it's needed. Outdoor space is important. Having a space to be safe and getting fresh air is important, but at the same time, there's a lot of sanitary conditions that, outside of fresh air that seem to be existing at the park right now. And so how the Parks Department is playing a role in addressing those.
Yeah, Commissioner, thank you for that question. There's no doubt that Hartside Park is presenting a number of challenges, not only for the Parks and Recreation Department, but all departments in the city organization. And so our Department of Parks and Recreation plays just a minor role in all that is transpiring right there right now. There are a number.
David, you're on mute.
There we go. I'm sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. A number of departments that have come together to address the issues that we're experiencing there. So the Parks Department, the Fire Department, the Police Department, Community Development as well. So before I defer maybe to Connie Bohach or Chief Lehman and Molly Claren on some of this, I'll just say that we have staffed up to the extent that we can right now. Our seasonals have departed the department for the season, but we have continued to rely on the contracts that we hold with both Next Step Organization and Steepletown. And we have stationed crews in the downtown area to help with the number of the great increase of trash that we're seeing in a number of our parks, especially Hartside Park. And so those crews from both organizations are focused downtown, but primarily at Hartside Park to do our best to try to stay ahead of and keep those park spaces open and sanitary. But I will defer to Connie or the chief.
But before we have other staff respond, perhaps I can just summarize, Commissioner O'Connor, and say that so the maintenance issues, the Parks Department has been heavily involved in. I think the department has given it additional attention to the physical condition. In terms of the social issues in the parks, as Mr. Marquardt said, we have been working with community partners to address the issues of homelessness, and specifically looking for alternative solutions for housing, transitional housing, and we're working right now with some community partners to find a better location for isolation, and that allows more space. And there's another facility that the staff is looking into downtown, and Ms. Bohach and her team are negotiating with that entity at the moment. We've also, in terms of just staff presence, as Ms. Marquardt said, the park ambassadors were summertime, and what we've done is we tried to collaborate more with the homeless outreach team. And that has been expanded to include behavioral health, social health professionals. And the limitations are that they do a great job, 6 a.m., I think to 6 p.m., 6 days a week. And as we stated earlier, it would be ideal to have more availability. We need that team available evening and after hours to continue to reinforce the good work that they do during the daytime. And so it's a resource issue. Ms. Bohach, anything else?
No, I think we should just mention that the HOT team, though, is now going to Hartside Park on a daily basis. So Chief Lehman has got that instituted. And the homelessness work group, as you may recall, that we've established through our emergency management structure, is continuing to focus on these issues. And now we originally were really focused on Monroe Center in that partnership with community builders, and that is going very well. And we're seeing some significant improvements there. And we are now also really focusing on Hartside Park. So Commissioner O'Connor, hopefully we will get some of those issues addressed in the near future. And in particular, as the city manager indicated, we are looking at some options for expanded shelter capacity. My understanding is, for example, last night Mel Trotter had 20 beds available. But as the weather gets colder and we need to get more folks into shelter, that won't be enough. So we are looking at how we can have some additional sheltering capacity as well that I think will help us in our efforts to keep, clean up Hartside Park and keep it cleaned up as a result of having more shelter availability throughout the winter.
All right, thank you. We'll continue. Commissioner O'Connor, I know many of us have been contacted about this issue, so we'll make sure that we continue to be updated on progress. Yeah. Commissioners, other questions or comments? Commissioner Ruppert?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that and just thank David for the engagement that the staff has done around Package Park and Hartside, and just kind of plea and encourage that you continue to include the Hartside Neighborhood Association in those plans, as this is their daily reality, and they've got great ideas about how to keep improving those two spaces. But I also I'm so excited that Lexington Park is completed. That's been a long time coming. It's a beautiful little park. And I think that both with Lexington Park and with Clemente Park, they make some of the future development that's going to happen, both at that building right on site and down Godfrey, a bit more attractive. And, they make things score better for LIHTC to have a park nearby. And so I'm just very excited about that. My family continues to chip off all the parks on our list. And when the playgrounds were shut down, we shifted to Kent County parks. But we're shifting back now to Grand Rapids Parks, and we've been able to check out some of the new ones. Plaster Creek in particular is just lights out amazing. And I'm excited to go see the Kennesaw improvements as well. So thank you again. Thank you to your whole team for all the ways that you've adjusted during this time. And I look forward to discussing park acquisition. 38 acres in the city sounds pretty exciting to add to the list. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruppert. And Commissioner Ruppert is one of our city liaisons on the nonprofit board of Friends of Grand Rapids Parks. So thanks for your continued work in that space as well. Thanks. Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, David, for the presentation. Could you share a little bit, I think thinking about, Mayor Bliss, you talked about the voters and other people who supported this effort. And I love to see, I think, the connection points that we make at the city between one department and our overall foundations. And so could you share a little bit about any of the environmental aspects or opportunities that we've had with the improvements and the renovations, and even as we look forward to future acquisitions?
Yeah, Commissioner, your question is about those foundations that we've connected with?
No, more so to the environmental sustainability pieces when we're looking at the renovations or the redesigns and looking at that capital investment and making sure that we tie whatever we're doing back to that foundation of sustainability.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in all of our park projects, of course, those that I highlighted today, but many others that I didn't even specifically touch on today, it is our intent to build in green infrastructure components to all of our park projects to ensure that we're treating stormwater quality in a way that is natural and helps to sustain and clean the environment and keep our rivers and streams and creeks cleaner as well. So those are priorities that we implement into every one of our projects. That includes updated parking areas where we're building in new tree islands. We're ensuring that those islands aren't just pretty and green looking, but they also are very functional, and they help collect some of that stormwater and clean that stormwater as well. But in addition to that, we're putting in low flow water fixtures into our restroom facility upgrades. We're adding LED lighting, where we're adding lighting to our park spaces and park trails. The drinking fountain standard is now the fillable water bottle standard, so that we're encouraging residents to come with their own water bottles and fill them at that park space, and that's a stride toward sustainability as well. So in a lot of different aspects, we are ensuring that we are elevating a number of those sustainability components that are important to the overall city sustainability plan and strategic plan as well.
All right, thank you. All right, commissioners, any final questions or comments before we finish up committee of the whole? All right, I'm going to ask for a motion for 2 executive sessions today, one at 1:30 and one at 2:30. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. City Clerk, can you call a vote? This is executive sessions to meet with our appointed officials.
Commissioner Moody. Commissioner Isasi.
Yes.
Commissioner Repart.
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier. Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, commissioners, so those of you who serve with me on Economic Development Project Team, I'll see you at 12:30, and then I'll see you at 1:30 and 2:30 for our executive sessions. And then we'll be back together tonight at 7. We do have 3 scheduled public hearings tonight, in addition to our early opportunity for public comment and then public comment at the end. So just as an FYI.
Sorry, Mayor. So two of those public hearings, if consent agenda is approved, will not happen. So we'll only have 1 public hearing, most likely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. And then, Joel, just for anyone watching, for the public hearing related to moving towards even year, that is just a process we have to go through. We recognize that the voters voted affirmatively in support of moving to even year, but according to state law, we have to have a public hearing. So we'll be taking up that item after the public hearing.
Yep, correct.
Okay, thanks. All right, commissioners, we'll see you soon. Enjoy a little bit of a break before Economic Development Project Team.